doing today is we are going to make some bacon jerky. Have you ever had this before? If not, you really might be missing out. Bacon. This is like everybody's favorite part of pork. If they're telling you differently, there's a good chance they might be lying to you. It's delicious. It goes with literally every type of food. You can bake with it, you can put it on pizza, you can wrap meat in it, you can wrap veggies in it, you can eat it as is, serve it with breakfast, lunch, dinner. You can just make snacks out of it. So now, why jerky, you ask? This is actually going to become shelf-stable meat. I know that sounds really gross. Jerky is essentially a meat that has been prepared in such a way that it no longer needs the refrigeration for it to stay good. It's going to be shelf stable. So the bacon we have today is I have a maple cured bacon and I have a hickory smoked bacon. Why are we making two? Because I have a favorite and my husband has a favorite. This is essentially a one ingredient recipe that requires a lot of time and patience. You don't want just any bacon, however. You want the really nice thick cut bacon that comes out of the meat counter. Another tip is, if possible, you want bacon that has as much of the red meat in it and as little of the fat. Essentially, the fat is going to be the reason we need to bake the bacon before we dehydrate it. The fat is not something that by itself is going to cure naturally in the food dehydrator the way the meat would. And so for that reason, when we're making bacon jerky, we need to go through the extra process of cooking off as much of the fat as we can before we put it in the food dehydrator. So now when I'm making jerky, I really like to go and get the meat in bite-sized pieces before I bake it. So for bacon, that's typically about thirds, so about the width of your hand. So now it's important to cut this before we bake it, because if we try to break it into pieces after, then it's very possible this is going to crumble instead of having the nice even pieces that we want. So now to bake our bacon, we're going to lay all of our bite-sized pieces out on our baking sheet. We don't really want anything touching, but we do want it all very close together. And now remember, the bacon is going to shrink quite a bit as all the fat renders out and cooks away. So now remember, we're making two different types of bacon jerky today. On the left, we have the hickory smoke. That's my husband's favorite. On the right here, we have the maple, and that's my favorite. Into the oven we go. So the bacon is going to stay in the oven at 350 for about 15 to 20 minutes. We're going to watch it very carefully so the maple doesn't burn. We want the fat in the bacon to have a chance to cook out and render as much as possible, but we don't want the bacon to cook so much that it becomes crunchy and crispy before we put it in the food dehydrator. Here is our 5-minute check on the bacon. Magic is starting to happen here. We're about 10 minutes in, and you can see how much the bacon is starting to shrink already. I'm going to flip everything real quick and get it back in the oven. This bacon looks and smells amazing. We just pulled it from the oven. You can see how it has shrunk dramatically in size. There's a lot of the fat that is rendered out. Fat has started to kind of caramelize. And so the bacon is fully cooked at this point, but again, since we're putting it in the food dehydrator, we don't want it to get crispy. So we have the bacon spread out on some paper towels. We want this to be dry when it goes into food dehydrator. So we're going to roll everything up here in a little paper towel burrito and get as much of the fat out as we can. So we've got everything set up here now to get it all in the food dehydrator. I've got my bacon, it's still warm, but we've got the fat rolled out mostly into the paper towels now. So we're gonna layer it onto our dehydrator trays and get that started. And so now remember, we want the bacon to be fully cooked before we get this in the dehydrator. We don't want any part of it to be bending and snapping off. So now I've got the dehydrator set for the highest temperature, 160. So this is what I'm using. I picked this up recently courtesy of Facebook Marketplace for about $15. Our bacon's been in the food dehydrator for about 1 hour now. Let's give it a quick check. You can see from the glisten here, the bacon has continued to let some of the fat render out. We're gonna pat this dry real quick using the paper towel roll method again. Here goes round 2. Been right about 2 hours that our bacon has been in our dehydrator. We're gonna give it another check. Okay, here we are. So we've got the maple bacon here on top, and we have our hickory bacon down here on the bottom. So now we see the glisten again, so it's going to need one more pat down, but I think we are almost done. Wrap it all up. So you can see just how much grease we're still getting out, even though the bacon has been fully cooked and it been in the dehydrator for almost 2 hours. But it's got a nice chew to it. It still very, very, very much tastes like bacon. I think we're good to go. All right, so we have our bacon jerky finished. So you can see how it still has, a lot of flexibility left in it. It's not dry to the point where it's going to snap off. When you try to tear it, it gives just a little resistance and then comes apart. It's nice and chewy. It still has all of the delicious flavor that you expect from bacon. And now we have the benefit, this is ready to travel anywhere that you do. If you can get it to last, this should be good at room temperature for at least 2 weeks in an airtight container. If you need it to last longer, you'll want to make sure you put it in a airtight container and either put it in the fridge or freezer. Thank you so much for watching. I had a lot of fun cooking bacon for you today. Please like, subscribe, tweet, share, Facebook, comment below. Let me know what you think and let your friends know. I really hope to see you again on a future episode. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.